lives to you, O Spirit of love. Open our hearts.
Whoa.
Missed the step. Hello. How is everybody?
Pretty good.
Pretty good?
Tired.
Are you good, Ava? It's good to see you. It's good to see all of you. It's always good to see all of you. Anybody remember this box?
No.
No?
Oh, yeah.
This box
Oh, I remember.
contains the story of everything. Everything is in this box.
Big Ben.
14 billion years of story, give or take 100 or 2 million, is in this box. Imagine. And I know some of you know this, so you can probably help me tell this story too. So do you know how this story begins? Ready? Bang!
Now what you sing?
Yeah. And in that tiny, tiny little moment, so long ago, everything was formed. All the elements that would create everything since. And it started with galaxies. All kinds of galaxies. And over a period of time, more and more and more galaxies. And then in each galaxies there were stars. All kinds of stars. And not a long time ago, but a fairly long time ago, one star in particular, which is our sun, was born. And that sun gives itself out every day in light and warmth to make everything live.
How old is this one?
How old is the sun?
I think it's 5.
5.5 billion? Yeah.
4.567.
4.567. Our resident geologist.
Thank God.
Number to remember.
4.567, yeah, that is easy to remember.
No kidding.
If you get the point in the right place. And out of that, one of the planets was formed, which is the one that we know as Earth.
Which was the first planet?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Let's
Not in
think.
the whole galaxy.
I don't know. We'll have to look that up. Someone can Google it. And when the Earth was first formed, of course, it wasn't like it looks there. It was just a big ball of molten rock. That's all it was. And at some point in its life, a piece of that broke off and became our moon, the moon that we see at night. And as the Earth began to cool, water happened. It started to rain and rain and rain, and eventually it formed oceans. And there was a time when... Oh, well, that happens over time, but that's another story. He asked how it became salty. Lots and lots of tears.
Yes.
And originally, the whole planet was covered with water. There was no land exposed at all. But then, and of course, in that water, we had the first living things, little tiny cells that started to form. And they eventually grew into bigger things like jellyfish and all kinds of shelled fish. And then even fish. And through this time, the waters started to recede and the land started to come up, and we had land for the first time. And on that, we had the beginnings of grasses and mosses and things on the land. And that allowed for other creatures like frogs and salamanders and our favorite, mosquitoes.
No.
Yeah.
Those squishy mosquitoes.
And with time, then we got, instead of just grasses, trees start to grow in. And there was a time when trees were very, very large, way bigger than all the trees that we know today. And that allowed dinosaurs, because there was enough food to make animals grow really big. And we had massive, massive beasts on the land and even bigger ones in the sea at that time. And things were all going pretty well until a meteor, a big piece of rock, slammed into the planet, and it killed almost all of the life on the planet. 99%. Just left 1%. It left a few things like turtles that could bury into the mud and be safe from what had happened, and tiny, tiny little mammals. This was a time, so things like mice and little rabbits and things were able to survive, but also horses at this time were like this tall.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they were really little.
Did cockroaches survive?
Oh yes, cockroaches survived. They'll be here long after we're gone. And of course, as the Earth recovered from the meteor, then creatures could get bigger because things started to grow again. And so we had the beginnings of our mastodons, which were mammoths that were furry elephants, and all kinds of bigger mammals like tigers and leopards and those kinds of things.
Why didn't the dinosaurs come back?
Why didn't they come back?
Yeah.
Good question. I guess none of them survived, or not enough of them to keep it
Yeah, but
going.
wouldn't they
Maybe
like evolve into the...
Well, some people say that birds are modern day dinosaurs. And if you look at birds, you can see that they walk like dinosaurs.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, and then we had the beginnings of what we call primates, which were monkeys and orangutans, and it was out of those. And at the same time, we had way more than just grass and trees. Flowers and all kinds of other kinds of plants started to thrive. And then came us, human beings, the creatures that decided to come down out of the trees and walk on the land. And as they started to develop, they discovered fire. And fire changed everything, because now they could keep themselves warm. They didn't have to move around so much. They could also cook their food. And with that, they started to domesticate animals, which means they turned animals into pets and things that could help them. So dogs and cats. And horses were now a lot bigger, and they were used to help grow foods. And with that, we then began to build towns and villages and eventually cities. And then we arrive at now, where each of us has come out of all of this that came before us.
But what's next?
And then, I wonder what's next. And we have a big part to play in that. So that's 14 billion years in about 3.5 minutes.
I like that story.
Yeah.
I have that. I have one of those at home.
So, do you?
In my room.
So, do you want to wear this to children's church? Maybe you can all have a turn wearing it while you're there. We're going to sing our song, and Michelle, I think, has started some movement for this, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to join singing it and join in the actions, that would be great. The earth is our cradle.
With